This is fun. Like Zane said, he kind of gave you a little bit of my background, but product sales, that's been what I've been doing for quite a while. And like he said, I recently started another venture earlier this year, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But when I was talking with Kim about coming here and talking, I was trying to figure out what topic was going to be the most beneficial. So I wanted to talk about something cooler, something more fun, but fear of funding is what I just felt if I could have known a little bit earlier on in my career, if I could have the secret, if I could understand one concept, it would be this. And so that's what I decided to talk about, and I think there's probably a lot of us that are in that situation right now. So fear of funding, that could mean fear of funding for starting your business, could be for adding the employee, right, like we talked about. Whatever it is for you, there's a lot of situations where to grow your business, you have to have money, right? So why are we afraid? Like what makes us nervous to get money, to spend money? Commitment? What else? Not used to doing it. Cool. Like it's new. Cool.
Am I going to be able to pay it back?
Can pay it back? Yeah. Fear of failure. That's a big one. Scarcity mindset. It's like you don't know what you're doing, right? Cool. So you guys named these. There's a bunch of reasons. I came up with this list in maybe 20 seconds or so. And there's a bunch of other reasons, right? Why we're afraid, why we hold back, why we don't invest in ourselves, why we don't find the money, why we don't get funding, why we don't hire the employee, whatever it is. Here's some consequences. But what else in addition to this list? What other consequences are there from not being willing to invest in yourself? Personal relationships, cool. Regret. Boom. That's a big one. That's a big one. I should have put that on my list. I feel like I should have known that one, dang it. Regret. There's a lot of times where it's just a little bit too much, right? It's a little bit too scary. And 3 years later, once you have this brilliant idea, someone else who was a little bit more willing to risk is now selling your idea somewhere, right? Does that ever happen? Oh my gosh, there's so many people. I'll tell you what. Zane gave you a little background on my first product. It's kissing lip balm. Like that's like super weird, right? Random, especially for like I had my business partners, me and my buddy. We had a lot of national attention, and I can't even tell you how many people reached out and said, "Oh my gosh, I had that same idea. Oh, I wish I would have done that." Some people even, "Hey, you stole my idea. What the heck?" It's just who was willing to do it first, right? So that's a big one, regret. That's a really embarrassing picture. There you go. That's me. That's my buddy, Dallas. And I'm going to tell you my story. So you're like, who's that 16-year-old kid up there telling me about business, right? That started out as a college project. It was an assignment, and we were required to come up with a business plan, right? So we're in college, kissing lip balm, thought it would be hilarious, right? Pretty fun. So we came up with this fun business plan, and then we had to do the presentation in front of the class. We thought it'd be pretty cool, like hand out samples. So we had a classroom of like 200 people or whatever, and we want to hand out samples. So I called some manufacturers to try and get our lip balm idea created, right? And we had anywhere from, I think we had 15 manufacturers that gave us a quote back from like cheapest one, 15 grand. The most expensive was like 70 just for the formulation. And like, I was not going to college on a scholarship. Like, I was not going to spend that much money for a good presentation, right? So I called them all back, and I said, you're actually competing for my business, and I need you to do it for free. Like, I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to ask them, why not? Out of the 15 manufacturers, 6 of them responded and did the formulations for me for free, and I got to pick the best one. At that point, I was just excited for a good presentation to my class, right? I was like, sweet, those guys did it for free, they're crazy. I was excited to present that. Once I presented it, handed it out, right, it was fun, it was funny. People tried it on top and bottom lip. We had some people that were trying it with random people that they've never met, which was awkward and cool, I guess. Professor held us back after class, and I'm used to being held after class. Professor says, that was a really, really great idea. I want to invest in your business. What? Like, how much you got? I hadn't even considered at this point that this could be like my real business, right? He told us how much he had. We said, dude, if you're willing to do that, someone would give us way more. So no thanks, but we appreciate the grade, right? We didn't know anything about business. I was going to school to be a physical therapist. And I was taking that class just to run a practice, right? So I knew nothing. I was super naive about business. And I think that I'm really glad that I was that naive. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd had the guts to jump in and do what I was about to get myself into. My business partner, he's been a friend of mine for a few years. He was a little more gung-ho than I was. He was a bigger risk taker than I was. So we decided to do it, and that afternoon he talked me into a $10,000 credit card, and we swiped it, maxed it out on product that day. I was newly married at the time, forgot to tell my wife. We chatted about that later. And so that bought us our first round of inventory. And we just started to try and formulate what we thought was a good business model, a good business plan. So we took that $10,000 and we spent about $8,000 of it on buying an ambulance. We wrapped it with our logo, dressed it up real nice, put sweet rims on it. Thought this is the best use of my money right now, right? We'd show up to college parties and try to throw parties and throw the lights on. It was super cool. But guess what college kids don't have? Money, yeah. Yep, so we gave a lot of samples. We sold a couple here and there. Got to a point where we were running out of money again. We weren't selling enough to be able to keep up with the orders and our marketing that we were trying to do. So, trying to figure out what to do next, we had to sell our ambulance. Trying to figure out how to grow, trying to figure out what's next for us. I used that same business plan, and I walked into 7 different banks, the same business plan that I did for my class. And I think they probably mistook my confidence me being naive for a confidence. I just didn't know what I was doing. So I walked in there pretty much like this, first business and backwards hat, and said, hey, I need 200 grand. 6 of them didn't give it to me, but 1 of them did. Right? They didn't give me the full 200, they gave me 80. And it was enough, it was what I needed, right? It was enough to get me to where I needed to go. So we bought inventory, we were doing some more marketing, finally starting to sell, but it was really slow. In my mind, I was gonna start this company, call 1-800-Walmart. I was gonna sell them a bunch of stuff, and I was gonna be a millionaire in 2 months. Why wouldn't anyone do that? That's literally that was the amount of business knowledge I had starting out. So the problem was 1-800-Walmart didn't call back. Neither did 1-800-Target, 1-800-Walgreens, or 1-800-anybody, they didn't call back. So I ran out of my sales funnel. I came on to be I was gonna be the sales guy. After calling the 800 numbers, I ran out of I didn't know who to go to next, right? So we're starting to run out of money, and we need to replace those with sales. And we're just scrambling, trying to figure out what to do because it's just taking way too long. Way too long. I'm past 2 months, and I haven't made a dime, let alone $1 million, right? So got to a point where we were running out of money because we just tried to put the money back into the company, right? It's like Kim mentioned earlier, right? Putting it back in. And it was really hard to survive because I was married at the time. We're trying to figure out how to pay the bills. I remember specifically one time we checked our bank account to see if we had enough for a red box and a $5 pizza, hot and ready, for date night. It was getting really rough. So we're just trying to figure out what's going to get us over the hump, what's going to get us to a point where we're able to take a paycheck. And it took us just working for free. We had to run our business. A lot of you have probably been in that situation where it's not profitable right off the bat, and you just have to work it. You have to bust it. We looked for money everywhere. We had been given some. We had found some success with a bank, maxed out as much credit as we could personally, and it got to a point where it's like, well, we need jobs. But how many of us get in a situation where we're going to start our business when the time's right? Like, I'm going to start my business once I've saved up enough to start it. And you never start it. Right? You got a job. A lot of people end up in that situation, and I was terrified to end up in that situation. So there were 2 openings at a local grocery store for box boys. Out of 40 applicants, me and my business partner, we crushed the interviews. We got the jobs. We're like super stoked because we get to go put cereal boxes away from midnight to 7 a.m. together while talking about our business, and then we can go work our business during the day. Great, right? Super cool. That was a really, really rough period. I was tired. I was tired for a year. Still a little bit tired from it. That was 7 years ago. Stocking cereal boxes, it was what we had to do. Right? I was exhausted running my business during the day. I specifically remember this awesome moment that I had while I was at this grocery store, putting cereal boxes away again for that night. It's like 2:30 in the morning, box of Lucky Charms. I looked at that leprechaun guy for like 10 minutes probably. If anyone looked at me, I was just standing there in the aisle, right? Like, what am I doing with my life? And this should have been in a movie. Hopefully someone puts this in a movie at some point, but it's so stupid. Threw the cereal box down, and I'm like, I'm out of here. I look at my business partner, are you coming with me? Yeah, that happened. We walked over to our manager, we're gonna be millionaires. We gave him our aprons, and we walked out of that store, and the only thing missing from that was like explosion in the background, like putting my sunglasses on and slow motion, right? It was like this glorious moment for me after months and months. And it was about when I got to my piece of crap car that me and my business partner shared because we sold our other vehicles. I was like, oh, freak, yeah, we need jobs, we need money. Whoops. Yeah, that was an impulse decision, right? So, need money still. Now what do? We're standing out there 2:30 in the morning by my piece of crap car. And I had sold security systems door to door. I was a door-to-door salesman for the 4 years previous to that. And I knew it was really good money. So I told my business partner, dude, we can go door to door and we can try and fund the rest of this thing. We can try and have our families live, right? Take a paycheck somewhere, go door to door, and we can still do it at the same place where we can work our business, right? So we set time aside every morning to work our business, and then in the afternoon, we'd go knock doors. He'd sell one every now and then. I was a way better salesman. Sell some every day, and then we'd meet up, and then we'd work on our business after hours. While we were out there, we randomly saw that TV show, right? Shark Tank. And we're like, that'd be crazy. That's just what we need to get this off the ground. We need money, we need exposure. So we Googled it. Happens to be tryouts the next day in Dallas. I was in Texas. I was in Austin, Texas. So that's fortunate. We called in sick the next day, that's for sure. Went and stood in line with everyone else, and a few months later, we got the opportunity to pitch our idea, our product. So Mark Cuban invested in my company, and he said something to me that was extremely important to me, really valuable to me. He said, I can give you money, but I don't have your contacts. I don't know who you need to call. I don't know your industry. My company was the first product-based company he'd ever invested in. It's pretty cool. I wanted to be the one with those contacts anyway, right? I wanted to be the one to have that valuable information so that I can use it for other products, other things. But he told me, you have to hustle. You have to figure it out, you're gonna have to hustle. And I did, we did. But it's not easy. So we started experiencing a lot faster growth now that we had some money, we had some exposure, had some marketing. We had to give up 40% of our company, which it seems like a lot, right? Has anyone ever thought of starting a business but knew that there was someone willing to give them money, but they wanted equity? Worth it or not worth it? Worth it? Freaking was worth it for me. Heck yeah. I'll do that deal all day long. All day long. That turned into me doing consulting for Mark Cuban's companies. Also, he calls it mentoring. I call it making sure I don't screw up and waste his money. But he mentored me really closely, me and my business partner, for a year. Pretty good dude to be mentored by, right? He's done a few good business ventures, right? This is where it sounds like it's a great story, like, wow, awesome. You got on TV and you became successful, right? Oh man, I hate it when people think that. It drives me nuts. We experienced really fast, explosive growth. Has anyone ever been in that situation? Fast, explosive growth? Anyone? What was it like?
Crazy was a blur.
Was it expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get as quick a turnaround on your terms from your vendors.
How much did you get from Mark Cuban?
He gave me $200,000 for 40% of my company. Yeah, looking back, it's like, dang, what a terrible deal. At the time, I just got done working at a grocery store. I'm taking that deal. But it was really hard for me. It was a hard decision. They don't show it in there, but me and my business partner, okay, do we really want to do this? We were only going to give up this much. But he came in with this offer and was like, I don't think we want to mess with him and just try to negotiate. Let's just take it. We're desperate. But we had gone so many other places for money, looking for money, being willing to work for money. Our door-to-door sales, it funded half a year's worth of us operating our business. It took us 2 years from start to 2 years until we took our first paycheck. You guys want to know how much I took my first paycheck? $1,000. $1,000. That's how much I paid myself for the next 6 months also. $6,000. Explosive growth. It was really quick. It sounds like a great situation. Needs a lot more money. Requires hiring employees that are making money in your company that you're paying. Hiring a lot of employees, and the right ones, getting the right people, getting the right team. It's not easy, it's not cheap, and it's really hard, especially when they're making tons of money because you need their skill set, and me, the owner, can't take a paycheck yet. And it's like my $1,000 is a consolation prize. There you go, right? So really hard. And I will tell you this, Kim mentioned earlier the difference, I think Zane actually mentioned it too, the difference in consumer debt versus business investment, right? Totally agree, but when you've got that investment, it feels a lot like personal debt, especially when you personally guaranteed everything you own to a bank. So we were about $1.8 million invested before I was able to give myself a $1,000 check. I was a 22-year-old kid trying to learn business. That was really scary, and it's got to feel good. Like, okay, I'm obviously still living, I'm still breathing, survived barely. But that first business turned into over 300 products that we turned around. We basically figured out a wash, rinse, repeat situation, right? We know where to make stuff, we know how to sell stuff. Why not do it over and over and over, right? So I ended up consulting for 15 of his companies, Mark's companies, and personally produced, created, or sold over 300 products. I started 7 years ago. That's been drinking from a fire hose for a really long time. And the lessons that I've learned along the way, did Kim mention the S curves, right? Where you go into a dip as a business owner. I don't know if she talked about that, but I was going to some really big dips that were, I wasn't ever sure if I was going to be able to come out of, right? So situations where I know it's the right thing to do, I don't have the money for it, but I'm going to do it, and I'll go find the money for it, right? So that was a concept that I really wish that I could have learned better early on. The reason I went and got a job at Winco, I don't know if I was supposed to say the name. It starts with that. You can guess the rest. It was to pay a mentor. I had met somebody that had a $60 million business with his product in Walmart. Like my perfect dream mentor right there, right? He said, I'll mentor you for 2 hours a week. It's going to cost you $2,000 a month. You know that guy gave a crap about my $2,000 a month? No. Actually, the way he handled the cash, $2,000, when I handed it to him the first month, and he just kind of threw it on the table, I was like, what the frick, man? Do you know how hard I work? Do you know how many cereal boxes that equals? Didn't even care. He just wanted to see if I was willing to invest in myself. That made me work harder than anything I'd ever worked for in my life. And it solidified to my own self, to me, that I was willing to do whatever I needed to make it successful. That's all he cared about. That was gas money for his Ferrari. But I worked for his gas money. He told me information, shared with me how to handle processes, how to do systems, how to work this business without losing money. The reason I went to him in the first place, I lost $400,000 on a single order because I thought I could handle that order. I was going to ship it. I was going to do all of the logistics myself because no one can do it better than me. That cost me $400,000. That was a punch right in the gut, especially for a 22-year-old kid, right, who's not even sure what to do. Business was brand new, right? So you can learn. Zane mentioned that earlier. If you don't have a mentor, it's a mistake. You can learn by figuring it out. In my case, it cost me a few $100,000, or you can pay someone to tell you how to do it. You might have to go put cereal boxes away to earn that money to pay for it, right? But for me, scariest thing for me, even still now, it's more comfortable because I'm more confident in myself, but scariest thing for me by far was always asking for money, always trying to find money. Being willing to hire that employee before I could afford it. Being willing to hire that employee knowing that means I don't get paid this month. That was always the hardest thing for me, and I wish I would have learned that earlier on because it would have saved me a lot of headache and it would have saved me a lot of time. When my mentor told me in my first month of consulting, it took me 2.5 years to guess and to learn. So $2,000 could have saved me quite a bit of time too. It's the hardest concept for me to grasp, right? And she mentioned that I started a new company. It's a home automation company, and we've assembled the dream team. And the stakes are higher, the processes are bigger, the money is more, and it's not like me putting in, and my wife's here, and I don't know if she knows that I've personally guaranteed our house also, but there it is. I went ahead and signed that. We'll have an interesting drive home. But stakes are higher, the risk is bigger. Yeah, it's still scary. If you go all out, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful, right? High risk, high reward does not mean you risk high and you will get your reward. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it, right? So, but I'm a lot more confident because I've been there. I've been through the processes. This isn't my first time experiencing really, really fast growth, right? So I know how to handle it, and it only came from learning. It only came from me finding out that situations where I could invest in myself, I could get over that fear, it turned out, and it worked. But it only happened, it was only beneficial when I was willing to invest in me, when I was willing to be confident enough in me to find that solution, right? So is anyone in a situation right now where they feel their business could grow if they would have the extra help, have the extra employee? Whoa, so I haven't done it. Like Zane said, when he had someone do his tricks, his jokes, his presentation, and then do it better than Zane, it was a humbling experience for him. Same thing, a lot of us feel like, I can do it, I'm the best, I know better, it's my business, I care the most, so no one can do it as well as me, right? So I might as well be the one to do it. You're gonna create yourself a really exhausting job. So the point is, once you're willing to invest in yourself, you're willing to invest in your team, or you're willing to invest in that product. There's a lot of people that never even get their product or their service, their business off the ground because that first order, oh, that's gonna be my personal bank account, right? Doesn't have to be. What are some methods to get money? Family. Good idea, bad idea? No, I think it's a good idea. You have money, go get it. For sure, terms. Just make sure you sell whatever they sell to you before that 30 days so you can pay them back, right? Terms are good. What about banks? Yeah, like Kim mentioned, banks will give you money, right? They'll give you money whenever you don't need it. When we're talking about overcoming the fear, honestly, it's easier said than done. A lot easier said than done. Because I can stand up here and I can say, just do it. And okay, how, right? And that to me, that was the hardest lesson to learn. So overcoming the fear, this is where it starts. Determining what you need, and that can be, it can be a piece of equipment. It could be an exact amount that you're looking for. It can be the price of what you think an employee is going to be. Whatever it is, if it's a number or if it's a goal that you have to get to, just determine whatever it is that you need. Okay. Write down 5 to 10 ways to get it. Can you write down 5 things? Can you write down 10 things? Right, now you get a start. That $200,000, now I know where to start, and this is my list. It's like, is that really a secret? Is it that simple? It's stupid. Just do it, right? This one for me, show your passion, your confidence. I can tell you right now that Mark Cuban didn't invest in my kissing lip balm company because he loved my spreadsheet of numbers. I didn't even think to bring a spreadsheet of numbers. Same thing when you're trying to find money, you're looking for, whether it's like you said, the relative, or it's a bank, or whatever it is, wherever you're trying to find the money, they're more willing to give it to you if they see your passion and they know that you're confident in it. If you're not really confident, like you're saying back there, I don't know what I'm doing, study it, learn it, so that they can feel your passion and know that you're going to do whatever it takes. A lot of times you'll go in with a spreadsheet, this is how the numbers work, this is how it makes sense, but projections, financial projections, those are called hopes and dreams, right? If someone doesn't feel your passion, doesn't see your confidence, they're not going to be willing to invest in you because they can see that you're not that willing to invest in you. You're trying to convince yourself with your own numbers, right? Activate your network. Are there 5 people that you can call right now that know somebody that might have money? They don't have to, they might, maybe. I don't know if they do or not. They might. This is where coming to things like this, like trying to learn business. If you meet someone new, you're trying to talk, you're trying to usually like, oh yeah, my business is great. Trying to sell that guy your business, your product, your service. Doesn't always work that way. That's not what's going to help you. That's not going to do anything for you. right? If you're really in a situation and you're saying that, oh, things are fine, things are great, you're not going to be able to find a solution. I was having a conversation about 2 weeks ago with a friend of mine running a business who was in one of these situations, needed the employee, didn't have the money. He was being very, very real with me. He wasn't trying to sell me his service. I ended up knowing a person that happened to be looking for someone like him to invest in a company like that. Right? It was just one of those, the stars aligned, and usually if the stars are aligning, just go with it, right? And it turned into a great thing because he was real with me, and I talked to somebody else, and it turned into, I just happened to be the middleman, there you go. And it had been what he's been looking for like 6 months. Finally found it. So activate your network. That's talking to anyone and everyone and being real about it. Then diligently work for the solution. I think I have a different opinion on what diligently working is than most. I think you can probably tell yourself I'm diligently working, but are you really? Are you really going to work on your Facebook page instead of selling? Right? And this is how I determine whether I'm working diligently. I ask myself that question. Then I ask myself this one. Right? Have you done everything in your power? Everything. You've exhausted every resource to find a solution. I have yet to run into someone that says, I've literally tried everything, and I still can't figure out an answer. I've yet to run into that person, and if that person said, I have, I'd say, you're not working diligently. I'd say there's someone else in your phone book that you can call that might have the answer. Right, so that's how I gauge how diligently I'm working. Have I exhausted every resource that I have to make that happen? So those are steps to overcoming the fear. And honestly, that fear, it's the fear of funding. It can be the fear of whatever in your business. It's all the same. I use this analogy every now and then. I call my fear Karen. Karen is a puma. And has anyone in here seen Talladega Nights, right? You know where I'm going with this? Okay. For those who haven't, Ricky Bobby is a driver who loses his racing mojo in a car accident. He can't drive fast anymore, so his coach / dad, who's a drunk, puts a puma in a car with him and says, this is your fear, you gotta drive with the fear. Right? First, it doesn't go too well, and then he learns to manage the fear, and he's driving with Karen, like petting her real nicely. So, fear's in the car, right? Fear's in the car with Ricky Bobby. That doesn't mean like same thing with me. If I'm in a situation where I'm trying to find money, or I'm trying to decide if I should hire that person, or I'm trying to grow in this area, I will not let fear drive the car for me. The opposite of fear is faith. I live by this quote. I don't know who said this, but they were awesome. I actually thought like 3 weeks ago that I made this up, and I did Google search. It's all over. I live by this. The opposite of fear is faith. I don't always know the exact answer. I don't know what I'm going to do for a solution. I don't know what it's going to be exactly, but I will tell you this. I know that I will figure it out. I know that if I work diligently, I will find that solution. And I'd be lying to you if I said that that's easy. It took me a long time, and honestly, a lot of tears, a lot of heartache, a lot of work, a lot of frustration. Took a lot of that to finally figure it out. Not that I perfected it, but whenever I live by this, I find myself in a situation, I know that I'm willing to outwork the fear. So live by this, and you'll do all right.